Florida Republican Senator Marco Rubio is on the Small Business and also the Foreign Relations Committee, so we've got a lot to talk to him about this morning. Senator, good morning. Good to have you here.
Good morning.
What do you make of
Thanks
this? Good to have you here, sir. What do you make of this latest delay? Those who have employees between 50 and 99 in number now get till 2016. No relief yet for the individuals, though, apparently.
Well, I think there are two things that are important to point out. Number one is how curious that they've now scheduled it for after the next election. So certainly they are concerned about the impact that is having in that regard. The second thing is it's a reminder of how unimplementable this law is, about how poorly thought out it was. It's a warning against rushing and jamming down people's throats this highly partisan piece of legislation that was not well thought out. It's having such a disruptive impact across the economy. Even these employers that are apparently getting some short-term relief from this are probably not happy about it because of the uncertainty it creates in the long term. I mean, most people are not in business for the next 2 years. They're looking to be in business for the next 20, 30, or 40 years. And this law creates tremendous uncertainty. So every time they have to delay a key provision, it's a reminder of how unimplementable this law truly is.
Are you concerned as a Republican that it gives you and others one less argument going into the midterm elections and beyond?
Well, I don't view this from a political perspective. I think it's hurting the American people, and it's having a devastating impact on the ability of our economy to grow. From a political standpoint, on the contrary, I think it's actually an argument for why this law is so disruptive. They have to keep delaying provisions of it. It tells you this law truly can never be implemented the way it was designed because it was poorly designed.
I want to also get your thoughts on another very big story today, and that is we're learning about the battle that apparently is going on in Washington over whether or not to take out someone who is called by our intelligence sources a very bad guy who is intent on killing Americans. He's an American who turned al-Qaeda, who is somewhere overseas. And I want to play for you a bit of sound on this from Rudy Giuliani, and then I want to get your thoughts on it.
If I were the administration, I were the president, I'd be very concerned that 4 American officials are talking about this to the press, off the record. That's a serious breach of, protecting our national security. If this guy has any brains, he's already figured out who he is, and he's hiding somewhere. So, a lot of the ways in which they can protect us have already been compromised by the fact that this has been leaked.
So where do you stand on this? Is this somebody that should be taken out with a drone, if possible?
Yeah, first of all, I won't comment on the particular case and the matter. I serve on the Senate Intelligence Committee, and I'm very cautious about what I discuss publicly. Second, I'm very concerned about, as Mayor Giuliani just outlined a moment ago, the propensity of this administration to constantly leak sensitive information, I think, in order to position themselves politically. In this case, it's to appear to be deliberative. Here's the one thing I will say. We do have a growing problem of homegrown extremism. People in this country, born or raised or naturalized or just residents of the United States, who become radicalized on websites and then take the next step and decide they want to become jihadists. And I am concerned about that, and I am concerned about the challenges that's going to pose for our country in the years to come. And our laws need to reflect that growing reality.
Do you think the president's realistic about the threat that this person poses? And does it bother you that there's a debate going on about it at all?
Well, I think that in fairness, the debate has largely been triggered, and to the extent that in this particular case there's a debate happening, it's largely been triggered by restrictions that have been put in the law and restrictions that have been written in based on some of the outrage that's been out there about some of these programs. This is tricky business, but the fact of the matter is that there are dangerous people out there who happen to be American citizens, and we need to have laws that reflect that while we protect the innocent Americans from being hurt. Understood.
I want to talk to you about something that I know is near and dear to your heart. You have rolled out a very large education initiative yesterday, and one of the tenets of it is that you're hoping that there's a way in your plan to give sort of an alternative, cheaper way to a college-level education for a wider number of people. How would you do that?
Well, a couple things. First of all, I think people have knowledge they've acquired by living life, by working through volunteerism. They can acquire it by taking online courses. People should be able to get credit for that. I mean, how many people, for example, veterans return from war, knowing how to do all sorts of things, but in order to get a college degree, they got to sit in the classroom and take exams and an entire course and pay for it on something they learned doing. in the military or in other aspects of life. My point is that we need to have a flexible higher education system where people can get college credit towards a degree that gives you credit for all those things. But we have a bigger problem. We have this rapid transformation in our economy. It is harder and harder to find a job these days if you don't have some sort of higher education. And yet higher education has become more and more expensive, and it is completely controlled by the existing colleges and universities who play an important role but have a monopoly in controlling access.
Yeah.
And as a result, we have $1 trillion in student loan debt out there.
It's extremely expensive to go to college in this country right now. There's another idea, and I just have a couple of seconds on this, but a student investment plan that would get sort of the private financial sector involved in financing education?
So it would allow students to basically have private investment groups invest in them. They pay for their education instead of taking out a loan, and in return the student agrees in a contract to pay back that investment over a period of time through a percentage of how much they make. If that adds up to more than what they borrowed, then the investment group made a great investment. If it turns out less, then the investment didn't work out. But that's an alternative to loans. The loans will still be there if that's what they prefer to have, but I think this will really help graduate students going into engineering and the sciences, for example.
We need help in that department, that's for sure. Senator, thank you so much. It's always good to see you. Thanks for coming on.